The envelope slipped from Riley's fingers like a secret too heavy to hold, tumbling to the cracked linoleum of her mother's kitchen floor where it landed face up, the elegant script of her own handwriting mocking her from the guest list inside. "Darling, you know this town's eyes are always watching," her mother had whispered earlier that afternoon. The words slicing deeper than any knife because they came wrapped in the soft drawl of love turned conditional. In that instant, as the late summer rain began to drum against the windowpanes of the old Monroe house, Riley realized the party she had poured her soul into planning, her mother's 60th birthday gala, meant to mend the fractures in their family like stitches on a quilt, was unraveling thread by thread, because of the woman she loved. Riley Harper had always been the fixer in the Harper household, the one who smoothed edges and polished silver when the world grew jagged. At 28, she carried the weight of Monroe, Louisiana's humid expectations on her shoulders. The eldest daughter of a widowed schoolteacher, expected to uphold the fragile dignity of a lineage that traced back to cotton fields and Confederate whispers. Her days blurred into nights at the local library, shelving stories of lives unbound while her own felt tethered to the bayou's slow current. Alara Voss had washed into her world like a storm off the Mississippi, a transplant from Portland with ink-stained fingers from her graphic design work, and a laugh that echoed like wind chimes in the stifling heat. They met at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning 3 years prior, Riley fingering heirloom tomatoes while Alara sketched the curve of a pecan tree against the sky. What started as shared coffee under the live oaks blossomed into stolen evenings in Alara's rented shotgun house on the edge of town, where the walls seemed to breathe with the possibility of something real. But Monroe was a town that measured worth in pews filled on Sundays and invitations to the country club luncheons, where the air hung thick with the scent of fried okra and unspoken sins. Riley's mother, Beatrice Harper, embodied that world. A woman whose Bible verses flowed as easily as sweet tea, her silver hair pinned in a chignon that never frayed, even when her husband's death from cancer had left her clutching rosaries in the small hours. Beatrice had raised Riley and her younger brother, Harlan, with a fierce tenderness, quoting Faulkner at dinner to remind them that the past wasn't dead. It wasn't even past. Harlan, now a deputy sheriff with a wife and a baby on the way, embodied the path Beatrice dreamed for them all. Steady, sanctioned, safe. Riley, though, had always veered toward the shadows, her sketches of hidden gardens tucked into journals she never shared. The party idea had been Riley's gift to Beatrice, a way to reclaim the joy stolen by years of quiet grieving. "Mama, let's make it grand," she'd said one evening in the spring, as they sat on the wraparound porch watching fireflies wink like fallen stars. Catered crawfish boil, string lights in the backyard, a jazz trio from Shreveport. Invite the whole town. Show them the Harpers still know how to celebrate. Beatrice's eyes had lit up, the first real spark since Harlan's wedding, and Riley dove in with the fervor of a missionary. She sourced wildflowers from the Delta fields, designed invitations on creamstock with gold embossing. Each one a labor of love, sealed with wax from the candles Beatrice lit every Advent. Alara helped in secret, her artist's eye turning the mundane into magic. Mood boards pinned to Riley's fridge, visions of lanterns swaying like southern bells in the breeze. As summer deepened, so did the whispers. Monroe's grapevine twisted faster than kudzu, fueled by glances at the diner where Riley and Alara shared plates of gumbo, their hands brushing under the table like forbidden Morse code. Harlan cornered her one afternoon at the station, his badge glinting under fluorescent lights. "Rye, folks are talking about you and that girl from out west. Mama's hearing it too." His voice cracked, brotherly concern laced with the town's inherited shame. Riley waved it off, heart pounding like a drum in a second-line parade. But the seed of dread took root. She redoubled her efforts on the party, as if perfection could armor them against the storm. Alara sensed the gathering clouds. That night, in the dim glow of her living room, with Ella Fitzgerald crooning from the record player, she traced the line of Riley's jaw with her thumb. "This place is choking you, love. We could leave, head to New Orleans, start over where the streets don't judge." Riley's chest tightened, the familiar ache of wanting to run warring with the pull of roots sunk deep into red clay soil. "Not yet," she murmured, pulling Alara closer, their breaths mingling like smoke from a bonfire. "Mama needs this. I need to believe we can have both." Weeks blurred into a frenzy of preparations. Riley drove to Baton Rouge for linens, haggled with florists over magnolia garlands that would drape the pergola like bridal veils. She envisioned Beatrice at the center, laughing amid the swirl of neighbors, the ache of widowhood softened by the warmth of community. Alara slipped notes into her pockets. "You're braver than this town's ghosts," scrawled on a napkin from Poboys in politics. Harlan helped with the heavier lifting, hauling tables under the oaks, though his silences grew heavier, loaded with what he wouldn't say. The turning point came on a sweltering August afternoon, the kind where the air shimmered like a fever dream. Riley arrived home from the post office, arms laden with the final batch of invitations, to find Beatrice at the kitchen table, her face ashen as she clutched a photograph, snapped by some busybody at the market. Riley and Alara midlaugh, arms linked in careless joy. The room tilted, the scent of cooling cornbread turning sour in Riley's throat. "Mama," she started, voice a threadbare whisper, but Beatrice held up a hand, her eyes twin pools of betrayal. "Is this what you've become, Riley Grace? Hiding in plain sight, dragging our name through the mud?" The words landed like hailstones, each one bruising deeper than the last. Riley stood frozen, the invitation slipping to the floor in a cascade of cream and gold. She wanted to rage, to plead, to wrap her mother in the same fierce hug Beatrice had given her after every childhood tumble. Instead, she knelt, gathering the scattered papers, her fingers trembling as she traced her own careful script. "The Harper Residence, Monroe, Louisiana. You are cordially invited." Beatrice's voice softened, laced with the sorrow of a woman who had lost too much already. "This party was your dream for us, child. But dreams have no place for scandal. If word gets out, if they see you with her, we'll be pariahs. The church ladies, the club, even Harlan's job. I can't bear it." Riley looked up, searching for the mother who had taught her to stand tall against bullies, who had whispered that love was the only currency that mattered. But Beatrice's gaze held only the town's unyielding code, the invisible chains forged in generations of silence. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom with its faded wallpaper of climbing roses, Riley wept until her ribs ached. Alara came to her, slipping through the back door like a shadow, and held her as the storm broke outside. "She's wrong," Alara murmured into her hair, but Riley shook her head, the weight of erasure settling like dust on forgotten shelves. The invitations would go out without her name on the host line, her contributions footnotes in Beatrice's retelling. She had planned the party to bridge the gaps, to prove her place in the family tapestry, but love, her truest self, had become the tear. As the date approached, Monroe buzzed with anticipation, the Harper event the social linchpin of the season. Riley moved through the days like a ghost, overseeing deliveries from afar, her heart a hollow drum. Harlan tried to broker peace, inviting her to the backyard setup under pretense of brotherly labor, but his eyes darted away when she mentioned Alara. "Give it time, Ry. Mama's just scared." Scared of what? Riley wanted to scream. Of a daughter who dared to love without apology? The eve of the party found Riley at Alara's, the small house a sanctuary of mismatched furniture and half-finished canvases. They cooked gumbo from a family recipe Beatrice had shared years ago, the roux bubbling like confessions on the stove. "To hell with them," Alara toasted with a chipped mug of wine, but Riley's smile faltered, the spice burning her tongue like regret. In the quiet hours after, as they lay tangled in sheets worn soft by too many washes, Riley confessed the depth of her fracture. "I built this for her, Elle. Every detail a piece of us. And now I'm the outsider in my own home." Alara's fingers wove through hers, steady as the river that carved the delta. "Then we rewrite the story. Show up on your terms." But dawn brought no clarity, only the relentless tick of the clock toward erasure. The morning of the party dawned with a deceptive clarity, the sky over Monroe a flawless blue that mocked the storm brewing in Riley's chest. She stood at the kitchen window of her mother's house, coffee steaming in a mug that read "Bless your heart," watching caterers unload crates of crystal under the oaks. Beatrice moved among them like a general, her sundress crisp as new money, directing the placement of tables with the precision of someone reclaiming territory. Riley had slipped in at first light, under the guise of final checks, her presence a tentative olive branch. "Looks perfect, Mama," she said, voice pitched neutral, but Beatrice's nod was curt, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the bayou gleamed like polished obsidian. By noon, the backyard transformed into a vision from Riley's sketches. White linens billowing in the breeze, garlands of jasmine weaving through wrought iron arches, the jazz trio tuning saxophones that promised to unfurl like smoke. Guests arrived in waves, their cars lining the gravel drive like beads on a rosary, widows from the garden club in pastel hats, the mayor with his wife on his arm, Harlan's colleagues from the sheriff's office swapping stories of minor arrests over mint juleps. Riley hovered at the edges, a spectral hostess in a simple linen shift, murmuring greetings she didn't feel. No one mentioned her role in the orchestration. Beatrice's narrative had rewritten her as the devoted daughter who helped out, her deeper hand erased like pencil marks under ink. Alara texted once, a single line. Holding space for you. Come home when it's done. Home. The word lodged in Riley's throat like a fishbone. She wandered to the pergola, fingers trailing the magnolia bloom she'd arranged herself, their petals soft as forgotten promises. A cluster of women from Beatrice's Bible study clustered nearby, their laughter tinkling like ice in glasses. Beatrice, you've outdone yourself, one cooed, a silver brooch glinting at her throat. This spread. It's like something out of Southern living. Beatrice beamed, crediting the caterer from Shreveport, her glance sliding past Riley as if she were part of the scenery. The slight burned, but it was the undercurrents that gnawed. Harlan pulled her aside near the oyster bar. His uniform starched despite the heat, a plastic cup of punch in hand. You should eat something, sis. Mama's in her element. Don't ruin it. Ruin it. As if her existence were the blemish. Riley's retort died on her lips. Instead she forced a smile, the kind that cracked at the edges like dry earth. Wouldn't dream of it. She watched him melt back into the crowd, his broad shoulders a barrier she could no longer breach without cost. As the sun dipped, casting the garden in honeyed light, the trio struck up Summertime, the saxophone's wail curling through the air like a lover's sigh. Couples swayed on the makeshift dance floor, skirts swirling amid fireflies that began their evening vigil. Riley found a shadowed corner by the rose trellis, the thorns pricking her palm as she gripped the wood for anchor. Memories flooded unbidden. Childhood birthdays here, Beatrice's hands guiding hers in kneading pie dough, Harlan chasing her through the sprinklers with a garden hose. This party was meant to resurrect that wholeness, not fracture it further. A voice shattered the reverie, Mrs. Landry, the postmistress whose gossip mill turned faster than the delta's tides. Riley dear, you look peaked. And where's that handsome beau of yours? Beatrice says you're seeing someone special. The words hung, laced with the town's insatiable curiosity, and Riley's pulse thundered. She opened her mouth for the polite deflection, but Beatrice materialized at her elbow, arm linking through Mrs. Landry's with practiced grace. Oh, Riley's been so busy with the library, barely time for herself, let alone suitors. The lie landed soft as a veil, but its weight pinned Riley in place. She excused herself, fleeing to the kitchen where empty trays awaited washing, the suds blurring her vision like tears she refused to shed. Outside, the revelry swelled, toasts rising like steam from the crawfish pots. Beatrice took the makeshift stage under the lights, microphone in hand, her voice steady as a preacher's. To 60 years of grace, of holding on when the world tries to let go. And to family, the ones who stay no matter the storm. Applause thundered, glasses clinking in a chorus of approval, but Riley's isolation deepened, the words a velvet glove over an iron fist. She slipped out the back gate, the latch clicking like a verdict, and walked the quarter-mile to Alara's house, the gravel crunching under her sandals like accusations. Alara met her at the door, face softening in the porch light. No questions, just arms that enveloped, pulling Riley into the cool dimness where the scent of turpentine and fresh bread lingered. They sank onto the sofa, Alara's head on her shoulder, the silence a balm after the cacophony. Tell me, Alara finally said, fingers interlacing. Riley did, the story spilling in fragments. The erased credits, the sidelong glances, Beatrice's triumph built on her invisibility. It's like I planned my own funeral, she finished, voice raw as scraped knees. Alara lifted her chin, eyes fierce with the clarity of an outsider who saw the cage for what it was. Then rise from it, Riley. You're not a ghost in your own life. They made love that night with a desperation born of fracture, bodies mapping territories the town deemed unmappable, each touch a reclamation. Dawn found them entwined, but resolve hardened in Riley's veins like sap in oak. She would confront Beatrice, not in anger but in truth, before the party's afterglow faded. The next day brought hangovers and hollow victories. Beatrice called, voice honeyed over the line. It was beautiful, wasn't it? The whole town raved. Riley gripped the phone, knuckles whitening. I need to come over, Mama. We need to talk. Silence stretched. Then Beatrice's sigh, heavy as Spanish moss. Fine. But come alone. The Harper house smelled of lemon polish and lingering jasmine. The backyard tidied as if the night before had been a dream. Beatrice sat at the kitchen table, a fresh pot of chicory coffee brewing, her hands folded like prayer. Riley took the opposite chair, the wood creaking under her. You shone last night, she started, bridging the chasm. But it hurt, Mama. Seeing you claim it all like I was never there. Beatrice's gaze dropped to her cup, steam curling like unspoken fears. I did what I had to, Riley. For us. For Harlan's future, for the roof over our heads. Monroe doesn't forgive. Differences. The word landed like a stone in still water, ripples of old wounds. Riley leaned forward, voice steady. Differences? You mean love. The same love you gave Daddy that you taught me to chase. Beatrice flinched as if slapped. It's not the same. God's word is clear. And the town. The town is a coward. Riley cut in, sharper than intended. Hiding behind verses while hearts break in the shadows. Alara isn't a sin. She's my salvation. The name hung between them, electric as a live wire. Beatrice's face crumpled. Not in rage but in the raw grief of a mother watching her child slip away. I raised you better than to throw away everything for this. Riley stood, chair scraping like a line drawn in sand. You raised me to be honest. That's what I'm doing. She left then, the door clicking shut behind her, the echo reverberating through the empty rooms. Outside, the oaks whispered secrets to the wind, and Riley walked toward Alara's, the path ahead forked like the bayou itself. In the days that followed, the fracture widened. Invitations to church suppers ceased, replaced by polite nods at the market. Harlan mediated via texts, pleading for time, but his loyalty split like driftwood in the current. Alara, ever the anchor, suggested they pack for Portland, her family there a beacon of acceptance. We could build something real, away from the ghosts. Riley hesitated, the pull of place warring with the promise of freedom. Monroe was scar tissue and solace, the soil where her father's ashes mingled with the earth. One evening, as cicadas chorused their twilight hymn, Riley returned to the Harper backyard alone. The pergola stood bare now, garlands wilted on the ground like discarded vows. She gathered the remnants, petals crumbling in her palms, and wept for the girl who had believed planning could mend what prejudice tore asunder. In that surrender a spark ignited, not of defeat but of defiance. She would not erase herself. She would rewrite the invitation. Autumn crept into Monroe like a thief, stripping the oaks of their green in russet whispers, mirroring the slow bleed of Riley's resolve. The party had passed 2 weeks prior, but its shadow lingered in the town's collective memory. A triumph for Beatrice, a quiet exile for her daughter. Riley threw herself into the library's fall program, curating a reading series on Southern rebels. Celie from the color purple, Celia's unyielding spirit echoing her own. Patrons noticed the change, the way her recommendations veered toward tales of escape, but no one dared probe the Harper rift aloud. Monroe preferred its scandals seasoned, not raw. Alara's Portland offer simmered on the back burner, a pot threatening to boil over. They spent evenings debating over takeout po' boys, maps spread on the coffee table like battle plans. Imagine it, Alara said one night, her finger tracing the Mississippi's serpentine path northward. Rain instead of this endless steam. Galleries that celebrate us, not tolerate. Riley's heart tugged, visions of fog-shrouded bridges clashing with the call of the Delta's wild heart. And leave Mama to her silence? Harlan to his divided loyalties. Alara's eyes darkened, the artist's frustration etching lines around her mouth. You're choosing ghosts over life, Ry. The accusation stung true as a thorn. Riley sought Harlan at the station, catching him between shifts in the break room that smelled of stale donuts and gun oil. He looked older in the harsh light, worry carving channels beside his eyes. Mama's not herself, he admitted, pouring coffee black as regret. Snaps at the kids, stares out the window for hours. Says it's the weather, but we both know. Riley slid into the chair opposite, the vinyl creaking like old bones. Then fix it with me. Tell her Alara's not the enemy. She's family. Harlan's laugh was bitter, a sound foreign to his easy baritone. Family? In this town? You'd have us all tarred and feathered by Thanksgiving. He leaned forward, voice dropping. I love you, Rye. But I've got a wife, a son coming. Can't risk it all on. Whatever this is. Whatever this is. The dismissal cut deeper than indifference, Harlan's pragmatism a mirror to Beatrice's. Riley left without another word, the door swinging shut on the brother she once knew. That night sleep evaded her, the ceiling fans whirl mocking her stasis. She rose at midnight, padding to Alara's studio where canvases leaned like sentinels. One caught her eye. A half-finished portrait of them both. Alara's brush capturing the curve of Riley's neck in bold strokes of cerulean and gold. For when you're ready to see yourself, Alara had said. Tears pricked as Riley traced the lines, the paint still tacky under her fingertip. A testament to becoming. Dawn brought an unexpected summons. A note from Beatrice, slipped under Alara's door by some unseen courier. Come for tea. No lectures. Just us. Riley arrived at the Harper house wary as a deer in headlights, the porch swing creaking under her weight as Beatrice poured from a silver service etched with their initials. The air held the crisp bite of falling leaves, and for a moment, they sat in companionable quiet, the only sound the distant hum of a leaf blower. I owe you an apology, Beatrice began, her voice frayed at the edges. The party. It was yours truly. I stole the light to save face. Riley sipped her tea, the bergamot sharp on her tongue. It wasn't about the light, Mama. It was about seeing me. All of me. Beatrice nodded, eyes tracing the garden where the pergola sagged slightly, a casualty of the rains. I see you now. More than I want to. That girl Alara. She makes you glow like Daddy did for me. The admission cracked something in Riley, a fissure widening to revelation. Then why fight it? Beatrice's hands trembled, setting the cup down with a porcelain clink. Because love like that. It's a fire and dry grass here. Burns everything it touches. Your grand lost friends over less. Whispers about her sister's friend from the city. I swore I'd shield you from that. The confession unfolded like a long-held letter, Beatrice recounting fragments of family lore. Aunts silenced, cousins who fled north never to return. Monroe's underbelly where deviation meant disinheritance, not just disdain. Riley listened, the pieces slotting into a mosaic of inherited fear. Shielding me means burying me alive. I can't breathe in the dark anymore. Beatrice reached across the table, her palm cool against Riley's. Then teach me to see in yours. It wasn't absolution but a truce, fragile as spun sugar, sweet with potential. Emboldened, Riley invited Alara to Sunday supper. The Harper table set with Beatrice's best china. Tension hummed like a taut string as Alara arrived, wildflowers in hand, her Portland edge softened by a sundress borrowed from Riley's closet. Harlan and his wife Tessa were there too, the baby kicking under Tessa's hand like a metronome of normalcy. Beatrice presided with strained grace, passing the cornbread with questions about Alara's art that skirted too close to the bone. So you design for magazines? Nothing too modern, I hope. Alara smiled, deflecting with tales of book covers, her hand finding Riley's under the tablecloth. Harlan steered the conversation to safer waters, football scores, the baby's name, but his glances toward Alara held the wariness of a sentinel. Dessert brought a shift. Tessa, ever the peacemaker, asked Alara about Portland's queer scene, the word slipping out casual as cream in coffee. The table froze, forks hovering. Beatrice cleared her throat, but to Riley's astonishment, she didn't retreat. Tell us, she said, voice steady. Alara did, painting pictures of pride parades and coffee shops with rainbow flags, her words a bridge over the chasm. Afterward, as dishes clattered in the sink, Beatrice pulled Riley aside in the pantry, the air thick with spices. She's good for you. But the town's not ready. Riley hugged her then, the embrace fierce. Then we'll make it ready. Hope flickered, but Monroe's vines clung tight. Whispers resurfaced at the library, a returned book with a note. God sees all. Riley ignored it, focusing on a community workshop. Storytelling night for locals to share hidden histories. Alara volunteered to illustrate, her sketches bringing voices to life. Harlan even attended, baby in arms, his presence a silent vote. Yet betrayal brewed in the shadows. One crisp October evening as Riley and Alara walked the levee, hands linked against the chill, a pickup slowed beside them. Windows down, catcalls laced with slurs erupted. Go back to Cali, freaks. Tires spinning gravel as it peeled away. Alara stiffened, but Riley pulled her close, whispering, they're afraid of what they can't control. Later at home the incident festered, Alara's sketches turning darker, strokes of charcoal like storm clouds. The breaking point came mid-month, a call from Tessa in tears. Harlan's been demoted, says it's budget cuts, but the whispers. They know about you too. The sheriff's wife saw you on the levee. Riley's world tilted, the fragile bridge crumbling. She raced to Harlan's, finding him on the porch, shotgun across his lap. Not loaded, but the symbolism screamed. This is on you, Rye. He growled, eyes red-rimmed. My boy's future, Tessa's nerves, all for your choices. Choices. Riley echoed, fury rising like bile. Loving isn't a choice, hiding is. Harlan's face twisted, the brother yielding to the badge. Then choose to leave. For all our sakes. The ultimatum hung, a noose of blood ties. Riley stormed out, the night air slapping her like judgment. Alara waited with wine and wrath. Pack. Now. Riley nodded, the decision crystallizing like frost on glass. But dawn brought Beatrice at the door, face drawn as a funeral mask. Harlan told me. Said you're running. Riley met her gaze, unyielding. Not running, choosing life. Beatrice's hand clutched the doorframe, knuckles white. Take me with you? No, just. Don't forget us. The goodbye was a quiet unraveling. Trunks packed with journals and Beatrice's quilt. Alara's canvases strapped to the roof. Harlan didn't come. His silence a final cut. As they drove north, Monroe shrinking in the rearview, Riley glanced back at the bayou's bend, the water carrying their story onward. Freedom tasted of salt and possibility, but the scar of rejection pulsed, a reminder that love's cost was etched in the soul. Portland greeted them with a drizzle that felt like absolution, the city's pulse a counterpoint to Monroe's languid drawl. Letters arrived sporadically, Beatrice's script a lifeline across the miles. The garden's bare without you. Harlan's promoted again. Says to tell you congrats on the new job. No mention of the rift, only the weather and recipes clipped from the Monroe Gazette. Riley replied in kind, enclosing photos of their walks along the Willamette. Alara's arm around her waist unapologetic. Winter settled, Portland's rains a constant companion, mirroring the slow thaw in Riley's heart. Alara proposed one fog-shrouded morning, not with rings but with a sketch, their hands intertwined, inscribed forever's our map. Riley accepted with laughter that bubbled like champagne, the commitment a stake against the ground's shifting sands. They planned a small ceremony. Friends from Alara's art circle. A justice of the peace under evergreens heavy with moss. Invitations went out digital and swift, a far cry from cream stock and wax seals. News traveled back south via Tessa's email, tentative as a toe in cold water. Harlan saw the announcement, broke a mug then apologized. Says he's happy for you, really. Riley doubted but hope flickered. She called Beatrice, the line crackling like old film. Mama, we're marrying in spring. Come, see for yourself. Silence stretched, then Beatrice's voice, soft as magnolia petals. I'd like that child. But Harlan. He's stubborn as your daddy. The wedding day dawned clear, a rarity in Portland's veil of gray, sunlight slanting through the ceremony site's pines like benedictions. Guests milled, a tapestry of tattoos and tailored suits, laughter mingling with the trill of birds. Alara stood radiant in a linen suit the color of driftwood, her vows a poem of resilience. You taught me home isn't place, but the hand that holds yours through the dark. Riley echoed, voice steady. In you I found the courage to claim my light. Rings exchanged, simple bands of hammered silver, and the kiss sealed it, cheers erupting like fireworks over the river. Beatrice arrived the week prior, her suitcase light, eyes wide at the city's eclectic hum. Harlan's no-show loomed, a ghost at the feast. Tessa came alone with the baby, now a toddling force of curls and curiosity, her hugs fierce. "He wanted to," she whispered post-ceremony, little one on her hip. "Pride's a heavy chain." Riley nodded, swallowing the bitterness, focusing on Beatrice's tentative joy as she danced with Alara to a jazz quartet, steps halting but earnest. The betrayal crystallized months later, a package arriving unannounced. Harlan's handwriting on the label, contents spilling like accusations. Inside, the original party invitations, cream stock torn in halves, Riley's guest list annotations slashed through in red ink. A note clipped to the pile. "Found these in the attic. Thought you'd want them back. Some things can't be mended." Rage surged, hot as Louisiana summer, Riley crumpling the paper in fists that shook. Alara found her on the loft floor, surrounded by the debris, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. "He erased me then, erases me now," Riley choked, the shards of her brother's rejection embedding like glass. Alara knelt, gathering the pieces with care, her touch a poultice. "Then we burn them. Reclaim the ashes." They did, in a metal bowl on the fire escape, flames devouring the past as Portland's skyline twinkled indifferent. Smoke curled skyward, carrying Riley's grief, and in its wake clarity sharpened. Family wasn't blood alone but chosen loyalties. Beatrice stayed through summer, her visit extending as she volunteered at the library, reading to children with stories of southern swamps and hidden strengths. One afternoon, as they shelved books on identity, she paused, a volume of Whitman in hand. "Leaves of Grass," she murmured. "Daddy read this to me once. Said it was about loving wide as the world." Riley smiled, the bridge solidifying. "And now you read it to the world." Word from Monroe trickled. Harlan's promotion stalled amid rumors, his silence deepening into a chasm. Tessa mediated, pleading for reconciliation. "He's lost without you, Ry. Come home for Christmas, show him grace." Riley waited, the pull of roots against the bloom of new growth. Alara supported, her faith unyielding. "Go if it heals. I'll be your North Star." The flight south felt like descending into memory, the planes hum a lullaby of what-ifs. Monroe welcomed with familiar humidity, the airport's small terminal buzzing with holiday haste. Harlan met her at baggage claim, face gaunt under the fluorescence, no handshake, just a nod. The drive home wound through fields fallow for winter, radio tuned low to country ballads of regret. "Tessa's baking your pecan pie," he offered, the olive branch brittle. Beatrice enveloped her at the door, the house aglow with lights strung like pearls. Dinner unfolded in fits, laughter over the baby's antics, silences heavy as fruitcake. Harlan waited until dishes cleared, pulling Riley to the porch where the swing groaned under their weight. "I was wrong," he started, voice rough. "Demotion wasn't them, it was me pushing too hard to prove I was clean of your mess." The word stung, but Riley held steady. "My life isn't a mess, Harlan. It's mine." He rubbed his jaw, eyes on the dark bayou. "Saw the wedding pics Tessa showed. You looked happy. Real. A beat then. I'm sorry for the invitations. Burned him in anger. Thought it'd end it." Riley exhaled, the knot loosening. "It didn't end me. But it nearly broke us." Harlan's hand found hers, callous from duty. "Can we try again? For the kid." Forgiveness wasn't a floodgate, but a drip, slow, insistent. Riley returned to Portland renewed, the scar tissue flexible. Alara greeted her with a canvas. Monroe's oaks reimagined in Portland rain, roots entwining with ferns. "Blended worlds," she explained. Spring brought Beatrice for the gallery opening, Harlan's card arriving. "Proud of you, sis." Baby's middle name, Riley. Yet the true awakening came unbidden. A letter from Mrs. Landry, the postmistress whose gossip had once fueled the fire. "Heard you're thriving up north. Monroe misses your light. Started a book club, Queer Stories. Join via Zoom?" The invitation, digital and defiant, proved the town's slow evolution. Riley logged in that night, faces from her past pixelated but present, sharing tales of hidden loves. Beatrice joined too, her comments tentative bridges. In the quiet of their loft, as rains pattered like applause, Riley traced Alara's sleeping form, gratitude swelling like the river after storm. Rejection had carved her hollow, but love refilled the spaces, fiercer, fuller. Monroe's chains loosened, not snapped, but enough to breathe. The message lingered, a whisper to the world. Love's rebellion plants seeds, and from them forests grow. Summer's heat wave gripped Portland like a fever, the Willamette swelling against its banks, mirroring the undercurrent of unease that had begun to stir in Riley's rebuilt world. The book club with Monroe had flourished into monthly calls, a virtual salon where old faces softened with shared vulnerabilities. Mrs. Landry confessing a cousin's secret life in the 70s, another widow admitting her own unspoken longings. Beatrice became its quiet champion, mailing care packages of pralines and Faulkner paperbacks, her pride in Riley's curation evident in every handwritten note. Harlan's texts evolved from perfunctory to probing. Baby Riley says her aunt's stories are better than mine. Laughter bridged the miles, tentative but true. Alara's career crested with a solo exhibit at a Hawthorne gallery, Delta Dreams, canvases blending Louisiana's languid curves with Portland's angular grit, oaks morphing into skyscrapers, bayous into urban streams. Riley curated the companion reading, pairing each piece with poems of migration and desire. The opening night thrummed. Critics sipping Pinot, collectors murmuring approvals, Alara's hand warm in Riley's as they circulated. Beatrice flew in, her sundress out of place amid the hipster chic, but her toast, delivered with a southern lilt, stole the show. To my daughter and her wife, who taught an old heart new rhythms. Yet beneath the glow, fissures appeared. A gallery patron, voice oily as spilled turpentine, cornered Alara post-show. Love the work, darling, but that southern influence too. Provincial. Ever think of shedding it? Alara's smile tightened, but later, in the loft, she hurled a brush against the wall, paint splattering like blood. They see me as your exotic side piece, Rye. The Yankee curiosity. Riley pulled her close, the argument dissolving into urgency, but the seed of doubt took root. Had their blended worlds become a novelty, not a strength? Monroe called back in Autumn's turn, Harlan's voice urgent over the line. Mama's sick. Cancer like Daddy. Come home. The words hollowed Riley, the plane ride south a blur of recycled air and regret. Beatrice lay in the hospital bed, frail as tissue paper, monitors beeping like accusatory metronomes. Knew you'd come, she whispered, hand clasping Riley's with surprising strength. Alara arrived the next day, her presence a shield. Harlan hovered awkward, Tessa managing the baby with weary grace. The weeks blurred into vigil. Chemo sessions in sterile rooms, homecomings to the Harper house where the air held the ghost of fried chicken and unspoken fears. Riley cooked, Alara sketched bedside portraits that captured Beatrice's wry humor amid the ravages. Harlan thawed incrementally, joining late-night vigils with tales of patrol mishaps, his laughter a rusty hinge swinging open. One evening, as rain lashed the windows, he pulled Riley to the kitchen. You two. You're good for her. For all of us. The admission hung heavy with the unsaid apology for years of distance. Beatrice rallied enough for a family Thanksgiving, the table laden despite her frailty. Turkey carved by Harlan, stuffing from Tessa's recipe, Alara's contribution a cranberry relish spiked with Portland bourbon. Toast circled, halting, heartfelt, and when Beatrice raised her glass to the women who saved me from my own narrowness, tears traced silent paths. Harlan clinked last, eyes on Riley. To family redefined. The word sealed it, the betrayal's scar fading to a faint line. Winter brought remission's whisper. Beatrice strong enough for a trip north. Portland in snow was a revelation. Evergreens dusted white, the loft's radiator clanking like a heartbeat. She and Alara bonded over gallery crawls, Beatrice's critiques sharpening with unexpected insight. That one's got Bayou soul, she'd say, pointing to abstracts that echoed Monroe's wilds. Riley watched, heart full, the mending a tapestry rewoven thread by thread. But the climax crested unannounced, a letter from the sheriff's office forwarded to Portland. Harlan's resignation, penned in his steady hand. Can't serve a system that honors badges over blood. Starting a private firm, security with soul. Attached a news clipping. Monroe's first Pride event, small scale but sanctioned, Harlan listed as volunteer coordinator. You're doing, his note read. Showed me chains break when you pull together. Riley flew south alone, Alara staying to mind Beatrice's lingering treatments. The pride unfolded on the town square. Rainbow flags fluttering beside Confederate monuments shrouded for the day, booths offering ally workshops and story shares. Harlan manned a table on community policing. His uniform swapped for a polo embroidered with Monroe United. Spotting Riley, he enveloped her in a bear hug. The crowd's murmur fading to backdrop. Knew you'd come. Mama's watching from home, said to tell you she's proud. They walked the event together, Harlan introducing her to faces from the book club, now bolder in daylight. Mrs. Landry pressed a pin into her hand, a tiny rainbow magnolia, whispering, "For the girl who planned more than a party." Laughter bubbled, genuine as spring water, and Riley felt the town's pulse shift, prejudice yielding to persistence. Betrayal's echo surfaced in a quiet moment, Harlan confessing over coffee at the diner. "After the party, I burned those invites thinking it'd protect us. But it just buried me too. Lost sight of you, of love's fight." Riley squeezed his hand, the brothers' grip firm. "We all bury pieces. The grace is digging them up." Return to Portland brought integration. Beatrice dividing time between homes, her wisdom a bridge for Alara's next show. Harlan visited with the family, baby Riley toddling through the loft, her giggles a symphony of healing. The cancer's shadow lingered, but Beatrice faced it with the same grace she'd once reserved for Sundays, quoting Whitman, "I celebrate myself and sing myself." In the hush of a midsummer eve, Riley and Alara stood on their fire escape, city lights winking below. "We planned a party once," Riley mused, "and it erased me. Now every day feels like invitation." Alara kissed her temple, breath warm. "To the life we claimed." The human spark, flawed, fierce, illuminated the path. Standards bend to souls that refuse silence, love's quiet revolution outlasting any storm. The following year unfolded like a coda to their odyssey, Portland's cycles of rain and renewal syncing with the deeper rhythms of reconciliation. Beatrice's cancer held at bay, a watchful truce, allowing her to pen a memoir, Porch Lights and Hidden Paths, ghostwritten in collaboration with Riley, its pages a mosaic of Monroe's veiled histories and the daughter's unapologetic emergence. The book launched quietly at a hybrid event. Virtual ties to the South, in-person gatherings in the Pearl. Harlan flew up with Tessa and the children, his presence at the signing table a quiet vindication, autographing copies with Brother to the Brave. Mrs. Landry zoomed in, her book club now a national network, testimonials rolling in from towns echoing Monroe's slow awakening. Alara's acclaim grew, commissions pouring in for murals that wove personal tapestries. One for a New Orleans center depicting Bayou lovers under live oaks, commissioned post Harlan's Pride success. "It's us eternal," she told Riley during the unveiling. The crowd's applause a wave crashing over old wounds. Riley curated tie-in exhibits, her library role expanding to outreach. Workshops on storytelling as resistance, drawing queer youth from Eugene to Seattle. Beatrice guest spoke at one, her drawl weaving Bible verses with Audre Lorde, challenging attendees. Grace isn't given, it's grown in the dirt of doubt. Harlan's firm thrived, a bastion of equitable security that trained deputies in de-escalation, his model rippling to neighboring parishes. Visits south became ritual. Easters in Monroe with crawfish boils under the stars, Christmases in Portland with tree-trimming marathons where baby Riley directed with chubby commands. The fractures mended not seamlessly, but beautifully scarred. Conversations delving into the Levy Knight's terror, Harlan's demotion-era shame, Beatrice's attic confessions of youthful curiosities suppressed. Yet the narrative's peak, a cathartic swell arrived unscripted. On the 5th anniversary of Beatrice's party, Riley proposed a return, not as exile but architect. "Let's host it again, Mama. Your 65th but ours, all of ours." Beatrice's eyes misted, the idea taking root like kudzu in fertile ground. Planning commenced across distances, a symphony of emails and calls. Harlan sourcing the jazz trio, Tessa the floral arches, Alara designing invitations on digital parchment, cream-hued, gold-embossed, but with a twist. Each bore a handwritten note from Riley: "You are seen. You are invited. You are enough." Monroe buzzed anew, the event billed as Harper Homecoming, whispers of redemption threading the grapevine. The backyard bloomed under their hands. Same oaks but lanterns strung with pride pins glinting in the breeze. Tables laden with gumbo and gluten-free options, a nod to Tessa's allergies and the town's diversifying palate. Guests arrived diverse, church elders mingling with the book club, out-of-towners from Portland's circuit, even the mayor's progressive aide. Riley stood at the gate, Elara beside her, greeting with open arms, her linen dress the color of Delta clay. Beatrice took the stage as dusk fell, silver hair loose for once, voice carrying over the sax's prelude. 5 years ago, this garden held a celebration shadowed by fear. Tonight we light it fully. She gestured to Riley and Elara, pulling them forward. My daughters planned this then and now. Their love didn't break us. It rebuilt. Applause swelled, Harlan's whistle piercing, and as the trio launched into What a Wonderful World, couples swayed, Harlan with Tessa, Beatrice with a widower from the club, Riley and Elara in the center, hands clasped like vows renewed. The night's intimacy peaked in a circle under the pergola, strengthened now with fresh beams. Stories circled. Mrs. Landry's cousin, long estranged, arriving unannounced with tales of San Francisco freedoms. A young deputy crediting Harlan's training for saving a trans kid from a traffic stop gone wrong. Riley spoke last, voice steady as the river. I was erased once for loving as I was made. But erasure isn't end. It's invitation to rewrite. Tears traced communal cheeks, the air thick with catharsis, the betrayal transmuted to testament. Later, as embers glowed in the fire pit, Beatrice drew Riley aside, Elara and Harlan tending the kids nearby. You gave me back my life, child. Not just the party but the purpose. Riley hugged her, the embrace encompassing years. The slipping envelope, the torn lists, the miles bridged. We gave it to each other. Dawn broke with packings and partings, the Harper house humming with afterglow. Harlan lingered on the porch, baby Riley asleep on his shoulder. No more burning bridges or invites, he quipped, the jest sealing brotherhood. Flights north carried the warmth, Portland's rains washing clean any residual grit. In the loft's hush as autumn leaves skittered outside, Riley and Elara pored over photos. The circle's glow, Beatrice's unbridled smile. We turned rejection to revelation, Elara murmured, sketching idly. Riley nodded, the journey's arc complete. Not linear triumph but a spiral of growth, where pain's echo amplified joy's resonance. The human tapestry, woven with threads of defiance and devotion, unfurled its message. Societal scaffolds crumble under love's insistent bloom, leaving space for all to stand tall. In Monroe's red clay and Portland's gray skies, Riley had forged not just survival, but a legacy of liberation, tender, tenacious, timeless.